Tonight on the Pioneer Sideline, Madness. It is the annual March Madness episode of the Pioneer Sideline. Whether you're picking the brackets based on a logo, a mascot, the BPI, the RPI, the strength of schedule, the seeds, however you're breaking it down, we'll tell you how we break it down coming up next. This is the Pioneer Sideline. Won't you come on down with us, please? Well, this was a college basketball season for the ages. Some historic upsets, some historic finishes, some teams left out of this year's tournament, and some games in Pittsburgh here in our backyard. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Pioneer Sideline March Madness special episode. I'm Josh Krupp. This year, the basketball world has been rocked by upsets galore, and there's really no one outright favorite in this year's college basketball tournament. Now, the Pioneers of Point Park are not in the NCAA tournament, as they never are, but there are 68 teams, 64 teams. Will go all the way down to 4 and then 1. We will tell you who our winner is tonight on the Pioneer Sideline. Traditionally a chalk program. Let's see how that's going to all unfold this evening with our 3 reporters standing by over at the Sideline News Desk. They are Nick Kasiski, Megan Masiosi, and Michael J. Turk. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on here. Look at this, a double box setup. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good, good. I'm ready to talk about some basketball.
That sounds confident. Let's dive right in and talk right with the South bracket here, starting with the #1 overall seed, Virginia, in that bracket. Now, here's how the show's going to work tonight. Seeds 1, 2, and 3 automatically moving on. We're not going to talk about them in these first rounds because we assume, like we do every year on this program, that we do chalk. So, folks, do we have any upsets in the top half here of the South bracket? That includes #1 Virginia. There's a 4-13 Arizona Buffalo. Kentucky's in there. Are there any upsets, or are you guys going all chalk here?
I think you got to ask Nikki K that question first.
I have UMBC being Virginia.
Which is irrelevant.
Oh, my goodness. We're starting off without the chalk.
Every year, I try to have 1-16 seed be a #1 seed because it never happened
When has that
before.
worked for you?
Huh?
When has that worked for you?
I want it to happen, though, because it never happened. I want to be the guy who calls
Nick,
it.
it's not going to happen. It's Virginia. Virginia's arguably one of the strongest teams in this tournament
They're
this
the
year.
#1 overall team in the tournament.
No.
I mean, if it happens, you heard it here first. We're not going to move on with that. But thanks for your bold prediction, Nick. What else? So let's break down the rest of this top half of the bracket.
Well, Kentucky in the SEC, they're 5 seed, and they got Davidson, who is a #12 seed. This is usually a tricky situation here because there's always one time in the NCAA March Madness tournament where a 12 ends up upsetting a 5. And I think that's going to happen here with Davidson. They've done it in the past. You know, they had that guy named Steph Curry who's tearing it up in the NBA right now. But I think history can repeat itself here with Davidson.
I agree, but that's not the 12-5 seed that I have. Instead, I have Miami and Loyola Chicago. I have them beating it. It's going to be the best game in the South bracket. It's going to be competitive. It's really going to test Loyola's defense, but I really see an upset here from the #11 seed.
We're sticking right now with just the top half of the South. We'll get to the bottom there, and I'll remember that when we get there. But Turk, back to this Kentucky-Davidson game. That's in Boise, Idaho. And Coach Calipari never likes where his team is placed, right? He was complaining about having to go to Boise, Idaho. He said some of the guys on the team might not even know where the city of Boise is.
Right, well, hey, Kentucky has had, this is when they were back in the NIT tournament when they played in Pittsburgh at Robert Morris. You remember that game, Josh?
Right, yeah.
When they played Robert Morris and they got upset. The stakes were a lot different at that time, but Kentucky has had a history of being upset when they shouldn't have. So maybe this year. I don't know. Nobody can ever really know,
So the 8-9, Creighton, Kansas State, who do you guys got?
I have Kansas State. That is my upset, I guess, up in the top bracket. Then I have Kansas State over Creighton. The 8-9 seeds, they're always super competitive, so I'm just going to go with the lower seed here. I just think they're going to be better.
Yeah, I also have Kansas, actually. I also have an upset with Texas. I have Texas being Nevada. But
Okay, we'll
there
we'll
yet.
get to Texas and back. That's the bottom half.
I kind of
We're
jumped
not
the
there
gun.
yet.
So I'm
a little
guessing that nobody has Buffalo over Arizona?
No.
Okay,
No.
so let's
Initially
move to the
I
South
did,
since
but
we're
not
so
anymore.
anxious to get into the bottom half of the South. Let's take a look at what we're looking at for the second part of the South bracket there. It includes some big schools, some big programs up there. Miami at the top there, Tennessee, Cincinnati, who's had a very good year. So Megan, you had an upset in this bracket, as did Nick.
Yeah, I did. I also had Texas over Nevada, and I had Loyola Chicago over Miami. I just think Miami's seeded a little bit high as well as Nevada, so I think the lower seeds are going to take it.
Texas over Nevada is actually not a bad pick. And 10 can always upset a 7. You can't really classify that as an upset, though. But I went with Nevada just because they haven't been there.
So does anybody object to the Miami pick? Does Miami lose this game? Miami coming into it with a 27th ranked RPI, 22-9 in the ACC.
Like I said, I think it's going to be a good game. It's really going to test Chicago, but at the same time, I think they're pretty even. So I just think Miami's going to choke. They are seated pretty high. It's just going to get in their ego.
No, Miami has nice weather, which means that they also
There
have
it
nice
is.
ball skills. So I think that they're going to be
I don't
dribbling.
think
I think that
no.
they're going to be shooting. I think they're going to be passing. Everything is going to be great.
So you think they're going to play basketball, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I have them going pretty far, but we'll get to that later.
So if I'm looking at that right, are we agreeing that Miami's going to lose there in that game? Is that what
Yes.
we're
Oh,
picking?
no, I don't think Miami will lose. They're
So
playing
this is
a
a
tough conference
democracy
in
on the show. We got
ACC.
3
Come on.
analysts. So Mike says no, Miami Miami wins. Megan
Yeah.
says
I say no, Miami's going to lose.
loses. Nick, you're the tiebreaker. I feel like that's going to happen a lot, unfortunately.
No, yeah, Miami's definitely going to win.
Miami's
You
going
said
to
he hasn't
win
gone far.
Yeah, I do.
because of
They're
the
in my
warm
Final Four.
weather.
Spoiler alert.
So let's hurry up
Again,
and
we're
get
not
through the
there.
rest of this bracket now of the South and pick a winner. Does Virginia and Kansas State, is that a tough game, or does Virginia make it out of that one?
Virginia and Kansas State. No, I think Virginia makes a statement there again.
Yeah.
This is the team that's been ranked so high in the past in the March Madness tournament. This year, they're going to make the haters shut up.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's going to be much of a competition. Virginia's going to kill them.
I mean, I still have UMBC, but you guys kind of shot that idea
Because
down. So,
They're not going to lose.
all right.
Okay,
well,
back to
Virginia.
Boise. Back to Boise with Kentucky and Arizona.
Well, I ended up having Davidson going over Arizona. So much controversy there. Arizona, great basketball team. Don't
Right.
get me wrong. But with Sean Miller and everything that happened in the past was 3-4 weeks with him and how the NCAA is not getting the best reputation right now. I think Davidson can take advantage of that opportunity there.
We're talking about Kentucky and Arizona, though. So,
But I picked Davidson, so I'm not.
Does Arizona lose this game, guys?
Yes.
No.
No, I have
No
them
matter
winning.
who they play, Arizona loses this game.
2-on-1,
I
Kentucky
Even if
moves
I'm
on.
wrong initially with Davidson.
Kentucky moves on. Down to the South, Miami, Tennessee, Texas, and Cincinnati. Of those teams, who comes out of that?
Cincinnati and Tennessee, you got to take chalk at that point, I think.
I
Okay,
have,
so we'll
Miami.
just go with that for time's sake. 2-3, Tennessee, Cincinnati.
Yes.
Yes.
Who wins that game out of Tennessee and Cincinnati then?
Oh.
Tennessee.
Yes, absolutely Tennessee in that. SEC, they had a great showing at the tournament this year.
Okay. UVA and Kentucky. That's a tough one.
UVA. They're the best team in the
I
entire
agree.
league right now. And Kentucky choked last year, so I'm going to go with UVA.
Okay, let's shift gears now and head down to the West portion of the bracket. Now, the West has Xavier, not Xavier, like Xavier Stevens, friend of the program on the cross-country team. Xavier right there
What a guy.
in as the #1 seed in the West. It also features Ohio State, Gonzaga. We'll get to the bottom half of the West later, but guys, let's check out this top half. Are there any upsets in this one? And who's your 8-9 winner?
Nikki, you have Xavier going down in this one too?
Like winning?
No, do you
Yeah,
have them
no,
going down
losing.
in this first game to a 16 seed again?
No. I have Xavier. No, I do it. I only do it once. I have Xavier winning this one.
Yeah, I have Xavier winning. Like I said, I guess only upset would be Florida State over Missouri, but 8-9 seed again, it's not that big of an upset. They're pretty even.
Oh, I have no upsets in this that bottom half of the West bracket. Ohio State, I think, will go by with flying colors over South Dakota State as well.
So, Nick, you're the tiebreaker with Mizzou and Florida State. 8-9. We have differing opinions
I have
between
Florida
Megan.
State.
You're going State?
Yeah.
All right, so down to the bottom half of the West now. This includes a few big programs. North Carolina, Michigan. Also has Houston, which has had a pretty good season. You have Texas A&M Providence, which is an upset pick for a lot of people at that 10-7 spot. So let's go in with the Michigan and Montana game. Who do we have with that one? Does Michigan make it out? Yes, sorry, we have the 2 and 3 automatically moving on. Houston, does Houston win?
It's going to be a tough game again, I think, because they're a 6 and 11 seed, and I personally think Houston's a little high. Like, they're listed a little bit high, so I could see them upsetting it, but I did pick Houston for that.
Out of the 6 and 11 seed games, I think this one's going to be the closest as well. Houston, San Diego State. It's a toss-up. Penny flip. I'm rolling with Houston on this one, though.
Same.
We're unanimous.
All right, so we're going to go Houston, go chalk there, and then does Providence pull up the upset against A&M?
I'd say so.
Yeah, I could see it. That's one pick I wish I would have had back, honestly, but I just chalked it up.
No, I'm rolling with Texas A&M there. All these Texas schools tend to have pretty good showings at the tournament.
Okay, so let's move on and get our Sweet 16 picks. Xavier over Florida State. Anybody object?
No.
No.
Ohio State, Gonzaga, 5-4. That's a tough game. Who wins that one? I think we know who Nikki K is picking, but what about the other two?
I picked Ohio State in this. I think they have something to prove this year. They have a lot of seniors on the team. It's the best what their teams looked like, honestly. So I went with Ohio State. I think Gonzaga's going to chat.
So Turk is the tiebreaker there.
Zags are on a mission. They lost in the championship last season. I think they have something to prove coming up, and I think they can get it done against a number 1 seed.
All right, go down to the bottom half of the bracket there, Michigan and Houston. Michigan the 3, Houston the 6.
Yeah, I took Michigan again. They're on a 9-game win streak right now. They're hot. They're feeling it. I'm going with Michigan.
Yeah, I'm actually rolling with Michigan, too. North Carolina, again, good showing at the ACC tournament, but I'm really high on this Michigan team this year.
So do you have Michigan going past North Carolina then?
Yes, I jumped ahead one, didn't I?
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So Michigan's going to roll past UNC. That's an interesting pick. Michigan did have a good performance there in the Big Ten tournament, so some people are high on Michigan. Others are saying beware of the hot streak, but it's March, so you get hot at the right time, and you move on. So we have Michigan right now in the Elite Eight against who? This is a tough one. Number 1 Xavier versus number 4 Gonzaga. Who gets out of this game?
I accidentally spoiled previously, and I said Gonzaga can get it done against a number 1 seed, so I am rolling with Gonzaga to upset Xavier here.
Yeah, I think Xavier's going to choke as well. I mean, personally, I had OSU against Xavier, and I picked OSU, but yeah, I'm going to go with Gonzaga. I don't think Xavier's going to get it done.
Sweet.
So we got Gonzaga moving past Xavier, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so we got number 4 and number 3 down there in the West. We're going to come back and do the other side of the bracket coming up after the break. Yeah, we'll do all those games whenever we come back. I'm filling out the official sideline bracket on this computer here, but coming up next, we have some games in Pittsburgh. A team that won the championship not too long ago. The East and the Midwest are coming up right after the break.
Whatever happened to predictability? The milkman, the paperboy, evening TV. You miss your old familiar friends, but waiting just around the bend. Everywhere you look, everywhere there's a heart, there's a heart. I hand to hold on to. Everywhere you look, everywhere there's a lust of somebody who needs you. When you're lost out there and you're all alone, life is waiting to carry you home. Everywhere you look, everywhere you look, you might find out.
Spending just 7 minutes climbing stairs each day cuts your risk of a heart attack in half over 10 years. Sure, elevators are convenient, but you burn twice the number of calories just going upstairs than you do while jogging. Think about how long you spend waiting for elevators. The average person spends the equivalent of 2 years waiting for elevators over the course of their lifetime. Don't let that be you. Save time and increase energy. Next time, take the stairs.
Let's go.
Five, four,
3, Welcome back. The NCAA tournament comes back to the Berg once again. Does the city really need basketball in Pittsburgh? Well, at this time of year, we say yes, and we love having college basketball here. Duquesne University hosting games at PPG Paints Arena. We got 4 big games with 8 big teams, including Duke, Alabama, Virginia Tech, number 1, Villanova. Let's start with the top half of the East bracket there. You see Nova, number 1 from Philly. Blaine King, our old host, would be very happy to see that. Villanova winning a couple years ago and celebrating through the streets of Philly, not burning the city down, unfortunately. So then we go down 8-9, Virginia Tech, Alabama. Guys, let's start with that one. Who gets out of this game alive? This one is in Pittsburgh, coming up as the final game on the Thursday schedule at PPG Paints Arena.
I'm going with Alabama. Roll Tide on this one. Colin Sexton has been phenomenal at the end of the season for the Crimson Tide. Another good showing by them in the SEC tournament, upsetting Auburn a couple times this year. So I'm going with Alabama over Virginia Tech.
I'm going actually with Virginia Tech over Alabama. Normally I take the 9 seed, but I don't think so. I think Alabama's going to choke. Virginia Tech, they have a strong showing this year. I took them. So I guess you're a deciding factor.
Oh, jeez. I have Virginia Tech.
Yes. Why did you take them?
Oh, well, I picked them because I think that 8 over 9. I mean, if you do the math, yeah.
If you do the math, you get 8 over 9. Nick and I will be at this game. I'm excited to see that. Now, the Hokies have wins over UNC, Virginia, and Duke this year, and that's pretty good. They went 21-11, and they sometimes lack consistency on defense, so that'll be an interesting one to see if Virginia Tech can get out of there or Alabama. That is a toss-up, but we're going to take Virginia Tech on the sideline program here tonight. Continuing here in the East at the top half, West Virginia is going to possibly face off against Marshall. Who do we have coming out of those 2 games?
Good.
You have West Virginia at the top, that West Virginia, Murray State, and then Marshall, Wichita State.
I took Murray State. This is my 5-12 upset. Definitely. WVU, they always choke. So, no, I'm taking this is my
I also took Murray State. No, I'm with you. I took
Yeah.
Murray State. Relax.
Josh, overrule this one.
Timeout.
Overrule this one. Kanate.
Yo, Murray
Sagaba Kanate. You're picking against Sagaba
Kanate.
Kanate.
Konate.
Timeout.
Murray plays for the Pens. Come on.
No.
Come on.
WVU chokes every year. This is the 5-12 upset.
This is a democracy, and I would only tie the vote here, Mike. So we're gonna have to roll with them. Murray State over WVU. I'm disappointed. What about Wichita State and Marshall? We are.
I took Wichita State over Marshall. I didn't take Wichita State last year, and they were the 10th seed, and I should have. So I think they moved up where they wanted to this year, and I'm going with them.
It's the most unpredictable team in the tournament, Wichita State, every year. You never know. They won seed a couple years ago. I can't remember how long ago that was. 2 years ago? Or maybe 3 years ago they were. And they're just so unpredictable each year.
I don't know. Marshall Mathers. Eminem.
We are Marshall.
We are Marshall, folks,
Wichita.
but we're not. It doesn't seem like we're getting a Marshall WVU matchup. I would love to see that, but we're going to go Murray State, Wichita State. Who comes out of that one and moves on to the Sweet 16?
Wichita State. I mean, I think Murray State, as well as they're going to do against WVU, I don't think they have what it takes against Wichita.
Well, I had West Virginia winning that game over Wichita State, so I guess I'm going to roll with Wichita State as well because they're W.
I'll go with them too.
Does Villanova get past Virginia Tech and on to Wichita?
Yes.
No.
Oh.
I have Virginia Tech over Villanova. They're going to choke. They're going to choke.
Anyone else?
No,
Yeah, I don't-
absolutely
yeah,
not.
yeah,
I'm
they're-
rolling with Villanova
Exactly.
on this one.
Exactly.
No.
When
They're
they choke,
too
you heard it
built.
here.
They're too built to
No, they were
get
built
knocked
last
out of
year
that
too, and
round.
they still
Are
choked.
you kidding
Okay,
me?
Nova, Wichita State. 1-4.
Nova, I
Nova.
guess.
All right, so we got the one coming out of the top half onto the bottom half of the West now. So, or in the East. On the bottom half of the East, you have Florida versus the winner of St. Bonaventure. And who is the winner of St. Bonaventure? And is that UCLA? Yeah,
yes.
UCLA there. So a lot of people like UCLA in that game to maybe get past Florida. But let's continue and go with those games. 3 is going to move on. 2 will move on. 7 Arkansas, 10 Butler. So those are the 2 games we're looking at. Florida versus the winner of Bonnie and UCLA, and then Arkansas Butler. Who comes out from those games?
Well, I really like UCLA if they can get out with a win tonight to upset Florida. They beat them earlier this year. I think the ghost Alonzo Ball is coming back this time of year.
No, Florida's got this one. Since they don't have the Ball family, no, they're done. I'm going with Florida.
All in the family.
Kasiski.
I also have Florida.
All right, so Florida. What about Arkansas Butler?
Arkansas, they're seated way too high. Like, Butler is going to win this. I can't believe they've even seated this high. This is ridiculous. But I don't know. I'm going to go with Butler. That's my 10-7 upset. Butler's better than what they were seated at.
Yeah,
Also Butler.
Yeah, Butler.
Yeah,
I think we
Butler.
disagree, Butler.
All right, Butler High School here, not Butler University out there in Indiana. So Butler versus Purdue, 10-2. Does Butler continue its Cinderella story against Purdue?
No, not this time.
All right.
No, that story's been written
What
already.
about Florida, Texas Tech?
I'm going to go with Florida. I think they're going to upset Texas Tech, honestly.
I actually had
Yeah.
UCLA going pretty far, so I have them beating Texas Tech in this one.
Yeah, I have Florida.
Okay, so it's
But
2
yeah,
on 1
so
there.
I'm going to go with Florida then, SEC school.
So we'll take Florida to go to Purdue, and then who will face Villanova between the Florida and Purdue schools?
Purdue. I got Purdue. I don't know
I have
you guys.
Florida.
Again, UCLA here. I had them going pretty
You
far.
had them
I'm-
going that
I-
far.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's interesting.
I'll go Alonzo Ball.
Okay.
Okay, yeah,
Yo,
I
but
like it.
isn't Purdue good, right? Purdue?
Purdue is a 2 seed.
Yeah.
So yes, they're
Ah.
pretty good
That's-
at college
yeah.
basketball.
But that's like too much
So
chalk.
I'm going to go with Purdue because I don't even think, honestly, I
he's
don't
going-
think Florida's even going to make it out of the first round, really. So I'm going to go with Purdue here. Just rock chalk, I guess.
No.
Yeah, all right.
Florida Gators, 39% from 3. We'll see them getting knocked out there. And Villanova will take on Purdue. Let's go on to the West now. We'll come back to those two schools later in the program. Starting with the top half of the West, you got Kansas has got to move on past Penn, obviously, 1/16 there. A couple of interesting matchups in this top half of the bracket in the Midwest. Particularly, I'm looking at the 4-13 down there between, I think right now we're looking at the bottom half. So that's fine. Let's start with the bottom half of the Midwest there. Michigan State, Duke moves on. What about Rhode Island, Oklahoma? That's a game that is very interesting. Trae Young, a lot of people think that he shouldn't even be in the tournament. Where's Oklahoma State? What about Rhode Island, Oklahoma? Let's start with that one, and then while you're at it, does TCU move on?
Well, this reminds me of 2 years ago when we were all complaining when Syracuse made the tournament and they were a number 10 seed in the same Midwest region.
Yes.
And they ended up going all the way to the Final Four this year. Oklahoma, same story. Not supposed to be there. Oklahoma State should be in there as that number 10 seed at least. And now, I mean, they have a star player who's going to be a great NBA prospect one day in Trae Young. So, yeah, I think Oklahoma can pull off this 10-7 upset over Rhode Island.
As much as I wanted to pick Oklahoma, URI really surprised me, especially from last year when they did upset, I can't remember who it was, but they upset someone last year because I remember like my bracket was already done by the first round. So I went with URI just because Oklahoma shouldn't be there, and I think URI is just going to put them in their place.
That's kind of what I did too. I remember from last year because that's like one of the things that stuck out for me. So I have Rhode Island.
So it sounds like Trae Young doesn't get to move on, but Dan Hurley's squad does. So Rhode Island will move on. What about Rhode Island, Duke?
Rhode Island, Duke chokes all the time. They choked last year in the same round, so I'm going URI.
What's up with you and the word choke
Yeah.
tonight?
Because
Every
everyone
other
chokes.
pick
All the
is
top
choke.
teams.
Word of the
Everybody
episode.
chokes.
Choke,
Choke.
That's all they ever do.
At least
It's
you're not
annoying.
choking on chalk.
I actually
tonight.
have Duke beating Rhode Island.
Well-
But I think that they will choke in the next round. Spoiler alert. But right now I have them
What?
winning.
Well, the University of Pittsburgh is actually looking at the coach from Rhode Island potentially to come and fill Kevin Stallings' space, and so is UConn now with them firing their head coach. But I have to go with Duke on this one. Well rested after getting knocked out of the ACC tournament. And they have so much skill there and individual players.
Duke winning the national championship last in 2015. We'll have them moving past Rhode Island. Nick said Duke, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so Rhode Island or Duke gets past them. The top half there, TCU will put them past. What about TCU, Michigan State?
Jamie Dixon. No, I can't pick for Jamie
No.
Dixon. I gotta go with Tom Izzo on this one.
Yeah, I'm going with Michigan State. I think TCU is seated too high as it is, so I think Michigan State's going to take this.
We all got Michigan State.
Yep.
Cool,
Spartans.
so let's go to the other part of the Midwest now. That's where we have number 1 Kansas sitting in there. Seton Hall and North Carolina State, the 8-9. Clemson is there. Auburn's there against a really interesting Charleston team. Capital West Virginia, who moves on out of these games, starting with the 8-9 Seton Hall and North Carolina State.
I took NC State. Like I said, 8-9. It's not really like that much of an upset, and they're pretty close. So I normally go with NC State with the lower seed just because they have a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder, and they won it bad.
Same thing.
Yeah.
NC State. Not much else to say.
All right, what about Clemson?
This game's going to be really interesting. I think this could be one of the upset alerts. I wish this was a game I had back. I don't think Clemson's actually as good as what they are, and I think New Mexico was seeded too low.
New Mexico State has been in this tournament 5 of the last 6 years. They have yet to get a win in that first round. It's coming this time.
See, I had Clemson.
I did have
Clemson has
Clemson.
been really surprising me, so I hope they even surprise me even more.
So we're moving on Clemson?
Yeah.
Okay, what about Auburn? Does Auburn get past Charleston?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think they were seeded too low is what it is. I think they're seeded too low anyways. So, yeah, I think they're going to be kind of upset with where they're seated, and they're just going to
Charleston
roll
has
over them.
lost 1 game since January 13th. They have not been to the tournament since 1999.
So you have
Charleston
nerves.
is going dancing.
No.
But Auburn
And
has
that
Auburn's
first
been
round.
there. They know what to expect.
Auburn has a cooler name.
To quote my friend Megan Masiosi,
Auburn.
they are going to choke.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he got you
that's
there.
how you do
Words
it.
come back.
Oh,
Thanks a
words
lot.
come back.
All right, I wish to see Charleston move on there, but we got the chalk there. So
Yeah.
Kansas over NC State, yes or no?
No, I mean, as much as I think Kansas isn't going to move on, I don't know. I don't think NC State's good enough to beat them.
Yeah, I am with Megan on that one.
Yeah,
All right,
Kansas.
if it's Kansas versus the field, I'm taking Kansas, but we'll roll with NC State. Clemson, Auburn. Who gets out of this one? Is this college football or basketball? Clemson, Auburn.
Nobody rolled with me on my first 2 picks, so I have New Mexico State versus Charleston here. So
I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, but
I like the ACC school in this one. No, that's a lie. I like Auburn in this one. I don't know. I didn't prepare for that part of the question because that's a curveball for me. Let's go with Auburn, SEC.
I went with Clemson. I know they're they're only favored 5.5 points in the first round as it is. So that's why I don't think New Mexico is going to win. So I think with that confidence booster, they're going to go in. They're going to beat Auburn.
Yeah, I think if Clemson gets past the first round, I think that they can definitely, get past the second.
all right, so we have a 5-9 there in the Sweet 16, North Carolina State and Clemson. Who moves on from that game?
Wait, I'm sorry. I thought we picked Kansas over
No, we
North Carolina
picked-
State.
No, I thought NC State. I have NC State. If we want to pick Kansas, we can
Oh,
go back.
wow.
I had
Oh.
Kansas.
I had
You-
Kansas.
we all
I
had
had
Kansas. I
Gonzaga.
must have hit the wrong button then. My
I'm
mistake.
not even in that bracket.
So Kansas, Clemson. Sorry, 1-5. Kansas, Clemson. Who moves?
Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
Rock Chalk,
What does that
Jayhawk.
mean? Does that mean Kansas? All right, Kansas. I picked Kansas.
I'm going with Kansas.
All right.
Okay, and then the bottom, that's our Sweet 16 game going to the Elite Eight. So we have at the bottom Michigan State and Duke. We didn't pick up that one, so this is going to be a fun one if we get to it. Tom Izzo versus Coach K. Who moves on from this game?
Oh, I would be so excited to see this game here, Michigan State and Duke. But again, to go back what I said, Duke is well rested, and they're here to play it this year. Marvin Bagley and the Tripper, what's his name? Tripper? Grayson Allen.
Grayson
That's
Allen,
his name,
man.
everybody.
Grayson
That's
What a
how they all
guy.
go on.
What a college basketball player. Terrible person, but what a college basketball player. I'm going with Duke on this one.
Just his hot-headedness is why Duke is not going to advance. I had U or I to begin with, but I'm going with Michigan State just because I can't stand Duke.
I'm going with Michigan State too. See, you say that Megan keeps using the word choke. You keep using well rested.
Yeah, there we go.
Well
I used
rested.
it
Well
twice.
rested.
You used it a
Twice.
couple times
It's
now.
more
It's
than
like
one.
your
So
source
Michigan
bracket.
State.
We're going to rewatch this.
We're going to have Miles Bridges moving on here and face Kansas. We have 8 teams remaining in the Pioneer Sideline Bracket Challenge. Coming up next, who moves on to the Final Four? We'll break down the remaining 4 matchups here that we have coming up next. Do not go anywhere. I can't wait to hear what chalk matchups we pick next.
T. Why should you watch and focus?
Because why not?
Turn. Why should you watch and focus?
Because I produce it.
Welcome to In Focus.
Hello. This is so we don't run out of time.
Put up a goal just
Right.
because it.
In a little bit closer, please. Let me bring this in. I wanted to do a game. So
Game over. Oh wow. Did we get that? There he is. Why do you watch and focus? Because in focus is great. Chris! Game time! Game time! It's not game time. It's a promo.
Start your morning with us. I'm your host, Jess Paterchek.
And I'm your host, Alex Groves.
Good morning and welcome to another episode
That is what
of
happened at the
Daybreak. I'm your
Cathedral
host,
on Monday.
WPXI. The state wants to
This
take
was Monday.
$357 million out of a trust fund that
Some
is
of that
typically
wintry
devoted
mix stuff could get me. I care for you.
Go, what up? The diva himself. Only on Daybreak.
55% of all U.S. multiracial adults have been subjected to racial slurs or jokes. Where were you born? Being smart, pale, for a Filipino, to go back to Mexico.
There goes that black boy over there. You like fried chicken because you're light skinned, you are a cock, you think that you're better than us. The N-word.
Really good at jumping or climbing. Border hopper. Made taco. English your second language. Where's your green card?
Cut the jokes. Stop the stereotypes.
And then there were 8. Welcome back to the 2018 March Madness Pioneer Sideline Special. I'm your host, Josh Krupp, joined alongside all of my friendly panelists over here, Nick Kosiski, Megan Masiosi, and Mike Turk. Folks, let's go to our Elite 8 matchup, starting with UVA and Tennessee, the #1 overall seed. Does Virginia get past the Tennessee Vols?
We're going to keep picking chalk here. I'm going with Virginia. I like them a lot this year. I said it earlier in the show that they've been ridiculed for choking so much in the past. Sorry to quote you. But, yeah, I like Virginia.
Yeah, I took Virginia as well. I just don't think Tennessee's going to have what it takes to get past them.
Rock, chalk, J-hop. I have
Wrong
Virginia
call.
too.
Okay.
Is that it?
That was it, Nick. That
You're
was it.
close.
Okay.
So Virginia, 31-2 right now. Let's dive a little more deeper into the Cavaliers. Tony Bennett and his team have had such a fantastic season, ACC tournament that was fun to watch, and they really haven't had too many problems. And games that they should have lost, they won. So what stands out to you about Virginia easily writing them off against a Tennessee Vols team that's gone 25-8, that's had a pretty good season as well?
Well, Virginia basketball, you know, they're known for having a good defense. They got size, strength, and they slow down the ball when they need to. If they're coming across a team that's going to speed up the pace of the game, they know how to slow them down. That comes with the experience of their players and a good head coach.
And Virginia, unranked at the beginning of the season.
Yes.
What an unbelievable story here. They came into the preseason poll not ranked. That's got to give your guys some juice going into the year, you'd think, right? So Virginia, we're going to have them getting past Tennessee, moving down to the West now as we have Gonzaga and Michigan. We want to hear why Gonzaga's moving on, Nikki Kosiski. So not just that Gonzaga's moving on. So I assume that you're riding Gonzaga because you do every single year. But does Michigan have a shot here, Megan and Turk?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually picked Michigan to get by on this one. They're going to go to the Final Four. I'm one of those high on Michigan guys right now because I've been watching them play at the end of the year, and they look really well. As long as they stay healthy, I really think they can make it to the Final Four here.
Personally, I had UNC, but I could see Michigan beating Gonzaga. Just like I said earlier, they're on that 9-game win streak. They're the hotter team coming into the tournament. So I really think they're just going to roll over them.
Josh, please tell me you have Gonzaga, please.
No.
Oh, my. All right. It's fine.
I'm sorry,
Michigan.
Nick. I don't have
They're staying on my
Gonzaga.
bracket.
So Michigan is going to the Final Four out of the West bracket. So let's go to the top right of the bracket and go to the East. #1 and #2, Villanova and Purdue. Who do you have moving on?
Well, Villanova here, going in as a 1 seed. I have them going against West Virginia initially, but Jalen Brunson won a national championship with them before when they beat North Carolina 2 years ago. He's going to get another win here in the tournament. I really like this Villanova team. They're built nicely, and they have a good coach. It's always important to have a good coach in college basketball. Jay Wright, very experienced. He's been there before, and that's what's going to make the difference here come game time.
Yeah, they are respectful. They are working hard, so I also have Villanova.
You know what? I'm going to be different. I'm just going to go with Purdue. I think they're the hotter hand right now. In my bracket, personally, I didn't have them. I had an 8 and a 6 seed because there's a lot of chalk right now, let me tell you. But yeah, I'm going to go Purdue. Let's just say the #2 seed upsets the 1 seed.
So Megan will be the outlier. Purdue hasn't made a Final Four since 1980, so this would be a historic year for them. Villanova with the Player of the Year, but the Boilermakers have a good shot at ending that drought this year. If they're going to do it, maybe this is the season, but overruled by Mike and Nick. So we'll have Nova going to the Final Four. Now down to the Midwest, and it's Kansas and Michigan State. Of those two big programs, who moves on, Jayhawks or Spartans?
This is where Kansas is going to choke. I'm going Michigan State all the way. Spoiler alert, Michigan State, I have them going all the way. But I think they're going to roll over Kansas. We saw Kansas choke last year in the Sweet 16, so I think they're going to choke. They're going to go to the Elite Eight, but they're going to choke. Or Final Four, excuse me.
I agree. Plus, they got Miles Bridges. He's pretty good.
Come on, man. I got Michigan State here. Or, yeah, Michigan State. Sorry, I have Duke. I had to do the math in my head real quick. I'm not a math whiz like this guy over here. But I really like Tom Izzo every year, even though they really upset me 2 years ago when they were the number 2 seed and lost to Middle Tennessee. I have Duke beating Kansas, but for the sake of the show, I'm going to put Michigan State over Kansas.
Yeah, never forget. And this really isn't one of Bill Self's stronger teams at Kansas, and this is maybe the most vulnerable. So do they get it all the way to the Elite Eight? I think that's a question that a lot of people have in their minds. And if you're going to pick a team out of that Midwest bracket, you got to go with either Michigan State or Duke. So really, you're saying that the winner of that Sweet 16 game is the one that's going to the Final Four between Michigan State and Duke.
Yeah, I could see that, definitely. I
Absolutely, yeah. I really like Duke this year. I'm high on them with the Marvin Bagley.
Michigan State, they're just hot.
They're so built this year. Duke is so built, and I'm not even a Duke fan.
I just can't pick Duke.
I love Coach
They're
K.
well rested, right?
Well
rested.
they're
They're
well
really well rested.
See, you just said it more there than I have all show.
I was joking, making fun of you. Never mind.
Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
Gonzaga.
So Devontae Graham and the Jayhawks will not move on. That's what our reporters are saying. Villanova, Michigan State, UVA, Michigan. We got a hot Final Four coming up from San Antonio. We'll debate who is going to win it all this year. It won't be the Pioneers of Point Park, but that's okay because we'll still have fun to talk about the other 4 teams that are left in this tournament. Thank you so much for joining us so far this evening. Don't go anywhere because we only got 3 more games to go, and it is coming up next.
You'll ever do.
What's one word to describe CAB?
Welcoming.
Community.
Creative.
Experiences.
Family.
Openness.
Pineapple.
The Campus Activities Board is a student-run organization that consists of 7 different committees. Each focuses on event planning, marketing, and administrative activities. Join us in organizing the juiciest events on campus, from late-night bingo to festive dances to our team bonding meetings. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Point Park Cap, or like us on Facebook at Campus Activities Board at Point Park University.
Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. I'm Josh Krupp alongside Jess Paterchak.
Defending his decision to kick out 15 Cuban diplomats from the United States.
Thanks, Allison. Fitness on Demand has returned to Point Park.
Residents fear that Mount Agung will have a repeat of 1963's eruption.
2-star NFL quarterbacks made the headlines this week after wrapping up.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. That's your news tonight. For Nick Tomarello, I'm Alex Grubbs. Have a great night.
And then there were 4. Welcome back to the 2018 Pioneer Sideline March Madness Special. I'm Josh Krupp, joined once again by my friendly panelists Nick Kosiski, Megan Masiosi, and Michael J. Turk. Folks, we only got 4 teams left. We have a potential Michigan versus Michigan State final. We got a possible 1-1 final. This is a very interesting scenario that you all have laid out for us so far this evening. It's been a compelling show so far. Let's start with UVA in Michigan bringing us game number 1 on March 31st from San Antonio, Texas. It's UVA having the best season in program history, unranked heading into this season, versus a Michigan squad that a lot of people think has the defense to win it all. So who comes out of this game on top?
Well, like you just said, Josh, defense wins championships. And so I'm going to go with Michigan. Like I said earlier, they're the hotter hand, and it's not even like they've been beating unranked teams. I mean, they beat Michigan State in the Big Ten tournament. They beat Nebraska, and I'm not even saying that they just got past them. Like, they beat them 75 to 64 and 77 to 58. So not only do they have the defense, but they have the offense. UVA, I think their head's going to be a little bit big, and so I am going to take Michigan in this.
Well, defense in college basketball, March Madness, when it's one and done, doesn't always necessarily mean you're going to win the championship, as we've seen in the past with like good scoring schools like the Kentucky teams of the past, North Carolina teams of the past, big schools like that. But both teams do have excellent defenses. Don't stir me wrong here on this one. But I really like Virginia. In your intro just now, you said they're having the best season in school history. It's time to capitalize on that success.
Okay, timeout. Before I hear Nick's tie-breaking decision, Virginia so far has a fantastic defense as well. Let's go through a few of the tourney teams that they have beat this year. They allowed 55 points to Rhode Island, just 52 to Va Tech, 63 to Duke, 49 to North Carolina. So they have stalled some pretty good teams defensively. So this could be a defense versus defense matchup. One analyst goes one, the other goes the other. Nick Kosiski, let's break the tie. Who moves on to the championship? Is it Virginia or is it Michigan?
Thinking hard over there.
Big decision, man.
Well, I was going to pick Michigan, but after what I just heard, that was pretty convincing, to be honest. I'm going to have to go with Virginia.
But they lost to Syracuse.
Listen,
Syracuse barely got in. Are you kidding?
You gotta be honest.
They had two losses all year, though.
But I can't have Gonzaga. So Virginia seems pretty good, though. I mean, Josh just said all those teams that they beat. That sounded impressive. I mean,
They lost to Syracuse.
Michigan lost to Purdue twice. They lost to UNC by 15. They split games with Ohio State. I like Virginia in this one. I like Virginia to go the whole way, personally. That's the chalk pick. It's the favorite pick as the #1 overall. So that's why I got Virginia. It's 2-on-1 there to have Virginia moving on. Let's go to the other game with Villanova and Michigan State. Tom Izzo's got a good team this year, but Villanova having probably the best season in program history, even better than the one when they won the national tournament. 4-0 versus top 25 teams, #1 overall BPI, 14-4 in conference. That's Villanova. Michigan State, 2-4 versus top 25 teams. The BPI is 6, 16-2 in the Big Ten this year. So let's start with Nick and go the opposite way. Who wins Villanova versus Michigan State?
I have Villanova. I think that. What?
Good.
You didn't let me talk. I think Villanova's going to have more confidence throughout the tournament, and I think if they make it this far, there's going to be building up all that confidence. Their confidence level is going to be even higher than I can reach. Probably, I don't know if you guys can see my hand up here. That's how high they are. So I really think that Villanova will, take the win. It will be a close game, I must say. It's going to definitely be close. So, I mean.
So you're telling me we're going to have 2 #1 seeds in the championship?
Oh,
I don't see it.
Wait.
I don't see it.
I didn't think
now you better retract.
I don't want 2 #1 seeds.
Yeah, I don't see it. Like I said,
goodness.
I didn't have Virginia, but since for the sake of the show, okay, I'll go with Virginia. So I'm going to take Michigan State then because you never have 2 #1 seeds. Personally, I think Nova would beat Michigan State. I liked Michigan over UVA, but I'm going to go Michigan State then over Nova.
Yeah,
you don't have 2 #1 seeds in the championship game.
Yeah, you're right. I was actually just joking
kidding.
around. I was just messing.
So,
yeah, Michigan State.
So here's a good stat for you. Villanova has beat Xavier, who's a #1 seed, by combined 40 points this year. So you got 2 very good programs. That's a #1 seed that we didn't have making it. Can we correct me here again? It sounds like Michigan State's moving on, or did Megan had Michigan State, but what about the other 2?
Well, I want to change it back to Villanova now. I didn't know about that.
Oh my
I didn't know
goodness.
they won by 40 points. That's crazy.
Jeez
That's
Louise.
crazy. All right.
So was the original pick Michigan State?
I didn't pick Michigan.
You had Villanova.
She picked Michigan.
My original pick was Villanova.
Oh, it's Villanova then. If that's the originals, it's 2 #1s. I'm sorry, but we got to wrap it up here. We've heard our arguments for both teams, but what about our 1 versus 1 champion here with UVA and Villanova? I'll turn it over to you guys and listen.
Well, if I picked it correctly, I had Duke initially, but Villanova, Nicky Cage is really convincing me about his confidence in Villanova here with the whole hands up high thing on this one. Really like to see McCall Bridges, another Robin to Brunson's Batman 3-point shooter. Great defense. I'm going with Villanova.
Personally, I had UNC, but I'm going to go UVA. They've been the hotter team. They're everyone's top pick in the entire tournament. How do you go against them?
I'm going with Villanova.
So we got Villanova
Confidence.
winning the national championship. Is that right, guys?
Sweet 16.
Villanova. Blaine King's got to be celebrating back in Philadelphia. Of the 33 championships since 1985, 20 of them have been won by a #1 seed. 8 of the past 11 title winners have come from that top line there from NCAA.com. So that's going to be our final stat of the night. We got Villanova winning in the national championship game. Mike, give me a final score there so we can enter the tiebreaker.
Oh, geez. Final score there, putting me on the spot. Let's go 68-65.
68-65 it is, and you guys are the #1 seeds in our hearts here. Thanks for doing this and for doing all this Pioneer Sideline March Madness episode. Thanks to Lizzie in the back who's been doing all the directing and the switching that you've seen here, a #1 seed. All of you are #1 seeds here on the show. Our viewers at home, #1 seeds. We'll see if we get this to one-on-one championship there. Who's going to be #1? If Gonzaga wins, Nick, I think we owe you something as Nick shows you his clear favorite. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the 2018 Pioneer Sideline March Madness Special. I'm Josh Krupp, and we hope to see you next week at the same Pioneer time, same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer Sideline.